what I love about that example and the way that you use it in the book is how this science is kind of pure data. And I think what you do is add a structure behind that, and it becomes explanatory and people become able to apply it. And one of the structures that you use to describe this phenomenon of mental rehearsal is attraction, and attracting the future that you'd like. Now, it's slightly different, but there's one study which you mentioned in your book, which I'd love to bring up. And if that's all right, I'll describe and then you explain, because I think you'll do it a lot better than I. And I'm going to butcher this name, but it's Poech that you mentioned in your book, the study of the baby chicks.
René
Pioche.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll cut that out, I guess. So in this study, René Pioche, in this study you describe when baby chicks are first born, the kind of first moving, seemingly animate thing around them that they see, they think of as being their mother. And in the study, there's two different sets of chicks, one of whom already has their biological mother or the human, whoever it may be, and are placed in front of this moving robot. Now, they can't access it. It's within a closed box, but they're up watching it. And the robot is instructed to move completely at random. And if you watch a graph, it moves completely at random around the box because they have their mother, so they're not calling for it. In the next part of the study, the next set of chicks, this is their first interaction with an animate thing in the world, and they take it to be their mother. And what I find still, despite believing it, still completely insane, is that this robot, which is programmed, ends up in their half of the box. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like you to explain it, because like I say, you'll do a better job than I would.
Okay, so one of the things about juvenile vertebrates, chickens we use as an example, is that they imprint. And when they imprint to the hen. And that's how they create bonding. That's a very limbic brain phenomenon, right? And so the first few days of their exposure to the hen causes them to form this kind of bond. And so they follow the hen around. The hen takes them in different places. They learn how to eat. There's a lot of things that happen. So what they decided to do was to create a robot, dress it up like a hen. And this robot is programmed like a random event generator to turn 50% of the time to the left and 50% of the time to the right. Now, it's random, so it's not going to be right, left, right, left, right, left. That wouldn't be random. It would be right, 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 left, 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 right, left, right, 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 right. But if you keep tossing a coin, it always comes out to 50%. The more you do it, the more it's 50%. So what they do is they take the random event generator and they set it in an arena, and without any connection to the baby chicks, just as an example, they put the random event generator in this arena without any baby chicks, without any exposure to them, just to see how it would work. And as you would expect, it turns left 50% of the time, right 50% of the time. And if you were to measure it, you'd see it kind of cover the whole entire space. Okay, hatch the baby chicks, put the random event generator in the presence of the baby chicks, take the baby chicks, put it outside the arena, on one side of the arena, turn the random event generator on. Instead of the random event generator covering the whole arena, the actions, the movements of the random event generator, 100% of the time is on the side of the arena where the baby chicks are actually in the cage. So the intentions of the baby chicks and the emotion of bonding to that random event generator cause the action of the random event generator to move in the direction of the baby chicks. Now, those baby chicks have tiny, teeny weeny little brains and teeny weeny little hearts, right? And if they can cause a random event generator to move in the direction of that arena, how powerful are our thoughts and our emotions in attracting things to us in our lives. And so if you're in the process of creating a new life, then it must mean then you must have a very clear intention of what that new life would look like. And that's a function of the brain. And the brain is the architect. It is the builder. And when you get a wild idea about something that you want to create or something you want to experience, your brain, the forebrain switches on, the frontal lobe switches on, and it's the creative center. And You ask the question, what would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to be healthy? What would it be like to be happy? What would it be like to be traveling for a living? And your brain actually starts looking for answers, and the frontal lobe begins to access the association circuits in the brain that are connected to that question. And so when you get a clear vision in your mind of what that could look like, that's called intention. Now that's only that is only one half of the equation, because that intention is sterile without the energy or the emotion of the experience. So if you're truly beginning to imagine whatever that future is, and you start falling in love with that future before it happens, you start feeling grateful before that experience happens, it takes a function of the heart. And we've discovered, along with other institutions, that the heart has a very profound effect on our biology. So marry the clear intention, a function of a coherent brain, with an elevated emotion, a function of a coherent heart, and you do that properly, and you start to change your energy. Is it possible then you start to see effects in your life? Things start coming to you. Instead of going and getting them, somehow you start seeing these synchronicities, these opportunities, these coincidences that begin to mysteriously appear in your life. Now, when that occurs, it kind of wakes you up like, it's kind of weird that kind of happened. That kind of synchronicity is weird. Like, I didn't really plan that. I didn't really expect that. That's the awakening, right? To prove to you how powerful you really are, and in fact can begin to create events in your life. And instead of going out and getting them or having to do things to get them, somehow they seem to come to us. And we use Piaget's example because it really is a clear example of if baby chicks can do that, I'm certain that we can do the same.
Yeah. Like I say, I think it's Piaget is an insane experiment, but I think it's your explanations which really pull through. And one of those, and I want you to help me clarify a little bit on this. This is the part where people seem to take you more as a mystic, and yet you base it in science. Just to help me understand, most matter is ultimately condensed frequency, and we can in space-time. And these elevated emotions, for example, and an example of a higher frequency as you categorize it. And accessing the highest frequencies through the pineal gland allows you to get to time, space, which is another realm, you might say, purely of frequency without this condensation into matter. And you have all possible futures there. And that's where the attraction happens, in this other realm, when you manage to escape yourself and you manage to attract the future that you would like. So tell me if I've missed anything, but I think that's a rough, I think, there's a lot to it, but I think that's a rough characterization of your position.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but if you look around at the physical world around you, you look at objects, you look at bodies, you look at people, you look at things, you look at places. In this three-dimensional reality, everything has form and structure. It's material, right? And we experience this three-dimensional reality with our senses, okay? So pick any object that your senses are perceiving seems separate from you. So our senses fool us into the illusion of separation in the three-dimensional reality, and everything is height and width and depth. And if you don't see it, it doesn't exist, right? So, okay, let's take anything that's physical and material, and what are the basic building blocks of that physical form or that physical structure? They're called atoms. Turns out atoms are 99.999% nothing. They're frequency, they're information, and they're 0.00001% form and structure. And so we're perceiving a very small percentage of reality, if you think about it, and don't exclude yourself from that equation. The probability that we're seeing the truth of reality is next to zero. So our senses fool us into the illusion of separation. And because everything appears separate in three-dimensional reality, the way we get what we want is we have to do something. You want to get a degree, you got to go to school, you got to study, you got to learn, it takes time. You want to become wealthy, you want to become healthy, you got to change your diet, you got all these things. And so in the plane of demonstration, the plane of doing three-dimensional reality, we notice that we want something because we're separate from it. You want the new car, you want the vacation, you want the new relationship. It's because you don't have it. And so the brain goes, I don't have this and I want to have it. So the brain starts dreaming of having it. And then you start figuring out ways to go and get it. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to get a second job. I'm going to save money. I'm going to cheat a little bit, steal a little bit, do whatever I have to do to finally arrive at that dream. So the whole entire time until that dream actually appears, we're experiencing the separation of not having it. So when the experience finally comes, the emotion from that experience takes away the lack or separation from not having it. And that's kind of the game in three-dimensional reality. You get really good at it. You can study, you can learn from your mistakes. You can get a lot of good training. You can make your way, and you can become successful at gathering things or having experiences in three-dimensional reality. Okay, that's one way. Okay, Einstein said the quantum field, that energetic field, is the sole governing agency of the particle. He says the field controls the particle. He didn't say the particle controls the particle. He says the information in the field is actually controlling the particle. Okay, so what if you could create from the field instead of from from matter? Okay, how would you do that? Okay, well then, all of our attention is immersed in three-dimensional reality. If you think about it, all your attention is on your body. It's on people in your life, objects, your cell phone, your computer, your bicycle, your scooter, where you live, where you work, where you go to school, the classes you go to, where you sleep, the pubs you like to go to, the friends you have. That creates our identity in three-dimensional reality. Okay, so what we discovered is that when you get really stressed and you get really out of balance, the arousal of the stress hormone causes you to put more attention on your body. That's what survival does. If you're being chased by T-Rex, you better be thinking about your body. The arousal of the stress hormones in survival causes our senses to get heightened, and we start putting more of our attention on our environment, all those objects, all those people, all those places. The arousal of stress hormones causes us to be obsessive about time. If you're being chased by T-Rex and you're at one point and you want to get to another point, you're thinking about how much time you have to get there. So the body, the environment, and time. So then that quantum field, that is that invisible field of energy that exists beyond this space and beyond this time that you can't perceive with your senses, is real. And in fact, it is governing everything physical and material. And the most stable form of energy, the slowest frequency that we perceive with our senses, is matter. Okay, well, there are other frequencies that go all the way right up to that 0 point field, that singularity, that source, that oneness, that wholeness, where there's no separation. That's where everything physical and material comes from. So is it possible that the human being with our consciousness can connect to that field and energy? And we discovered that when people move out of stress and survival and they begin to take all of their attention off their body, of all the people in their life, all the objects and things, all the places they need to go and where they're sitting, and not thinking about what's going to happen in the next moment or what happened in the past moment, they can settle into the present moment. And we teach them this, that if they can become nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time, and take their attention off of everything physical, everything material, everything known in their life, and go from a narrow focus on focusing on everything physical and material to broadening your focus and putting your attention on energy and frequency. The act of doing that begins to change the brain in a very, very holistic way. The brain starts to become less modulated, less compartmentalized, and starts functioning in a more synchronized and holistic state. And the act of doing that actually changes the person's brain waves to get beyond their thinking analytical mind. Now, that is the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, is the analytical mind. So by changing your brain waves, you start dropping down in frequency, and the brain starts getting more creative, and the voice in your head stops talking to you. And when that occurs, then now you're getting into the operating system where true change can take place. So then in the quantum field, everything's connected. Everything's energy, everything's frequency, everything's vibration, everything's consciousness, everything's information. There's nothing physical. There's nothing material. There's nothing you can perceive with your senses. In fact, it's nothing. It's actually nothing. So take away every object, every person, every body, everything, every place. Take away the earth, take away the moon, take away the planets, take away the sun, take away the light from the sun, the light from the stars, galaxies. You're left with a vacuum, that void. That vacuum in that void is rich in frequency. It's rich in energy. And every thought in that realm has a frequency. So if the person can abandon their identity and become pure consciousness, and they can marry that clear intention with a coherent brain, combined with an elevated emotion, a coherent heart, the elevation in frequency that's created begins to change the person's energy. And when there's a vibrational match between their energy and some potential that exists in the quantum field, they start to notice that they don't have to go anywhere to get what they want. As I said, all of a sudden they start to draw experiences to them. And the more coherent the brain and the more coherent the heart, the greater the Wi-Fi signal. In other words, they have a signal to connect to that potential. So stress creates incoherence in the brain, and stress creates incoherence in the heart. So now you don't have a Wi-Fi signal. Your brain is incoherent. Your heart is incoherent. You can't connect to the field. So we teach people how to begin to create that kind of orderliness that takes place in their nervous system. And when they do, the benefits of that then are seeing the opportunities that begin to appear in their life. And the ultimate goal in creating from the field instead of from matter is shortening the distance between the thought of what we want and the experience of having it. And when we create from the field instead of from matter, we could actually begin to alter the amount of time it takes for our dreams to appear in our lives.